That early vision was these pools of liquidity that everybody can contribute to and everybody can draw off that are kind of unbundled from the payment system or the asset that you're using to pay with. Automated market makers, I think, will help improve that liquidity because they can capture a long tail of assets better than technologies like order books can. We've been working with the community on an automated market maker implementation for the XRP ledger. One of the disadvantages of holding assets like XRP and Bitcoin is their volatility. All right, why do we have stable coins? Because volatile assets are like hard to hold and use. I'm hopeful that this combination of features in the AMM specification will turn that disadvantage into a significant advantage. AMMs will harvest volatility for yield. Volatility will drive market makers. But there's something else going on that's almost more exciting, which is volatility is harvested by the automated market maker. Normally, volatility just results in risk and a reduction in yield. But here, it's a gain in yield. The automated market maker actually implements a trading strategy that converts volatility into yield. And I think awareness of the XRP ledger as a layer 1 option has been increasing. Those speeds, fees, scalability, low energy uses, and I think the track record, 10 years running, and the built-in DEX, tokenization, sourcing efficient liquidity. The XRP ledger rises to the fore as a core opportunity to differentiate against other chains with these features.
It's a public good. It's a public resource.
The developer community, even in the past year, in 2022, the growth has just been incredible. Just comparing Apex this year, if you were here last year, most of you weren't. The growth is just amazing. What's been going on this year? I mean, it's just been incredible. It's just been incredible, the pace of development and innovation. You guys should give yourselves a hand, seriously, because we cannot do everything, we will do everything, and we don't know what people, this is an amazing thing to say, but like very often, we don't know what people are using the ledger for because they don't tell us. Like if you don't tell us, we don't know. And there's a lot of stuff that goes on that we don't know. There was one time where there was a multi-million-dollar a day remittance pipeline on the XRP ledger. We figured it out months later, looking at the data. Like nobody. Like,
it's a public good. It's a public resource.
The AMM solution is going to be deployed. We're going to see more enterprise DeFi applications, but we need you guys to build the future. We need you to tell us what you need. We need you to build things. XLS 20D is imminent. We at Ripple are focused on enabling developers to build on the XRP ledger easily. We provide tools, services, and so on. We're one contributor to the global and growing development and evolution of the XRP ledger. And it has just been amazing to be part of this community. It has just been the most fantastic experience. I think I speak for everybody at Ripple. It has just been amazing working with everyone. We've been focused on new native capabilities. We've been focused on sort of the periphery around the ledger. And we've been focused on making the XRP ledger easier to use for developers. Near and dear to my heart, the automated market maker specification. I almost said automated money maker, which actually is kind of, it's actually pretty apropos, right? So the XRP ledger is a leading enabler of DeFi with features like the DEX and payments because of the design of the protocol. The XRP ledger's DEX is built around a simple central limit order book rather than an automated market maker. But I think if you have both of them, I think this is a case where it just blows away OR. The automated market maker addresses most of the pain points that people face in the decentralized liquidity landscape today. Provided like globally competitive liquidity, but there was no way to get yield, and sometimes there just wasn't the sort of liquidity that people might need. So RippleX focused on differentiating our DEX with automated market making in conjunction with the central limit order book and integrated with payments so that these three features work together to provide a feature set that is unmatched. This is not everybody else has automated market makers, now we have them too. This is everybody else had automated market makers because they couldn't build an order book. Imagine an order book features work together to provide a feature set that is unmatched. This is not everybody else has automated market makers, now we have them too. This is everybody else had automated market makers because they couldn't build an order book, because we can, and the functionality of both of them together is just, I don't have words to convey how excited I am about this feature. In October, I don't have words to convey how excited I am about this feature. In October, we're very hopeful that developers will be able to use and test an early version on the developer network so people can build front-end UIs, integrate with new applications, and understand the features that it can provide. I would love to do the whole talk on the automated market maker and get really deep in the weeds, and I'm going to have to fight myself not to get very technical because this is sort of engineering perfection that certain things have. Any one of you who's worked on something, it doesn't have to be software, it could be cars, it could be bicycles, but anything where you're building something, you reach a point where like everything works together and it just fits really nice, and you're like,
yes, this is like really nice, and then there'll be a couple warts somewhere, but they really stand out because the rest of the design is so great, and we're reaching that point.
Yes, this is like really nice, and then there will be a couple warts somewhere, but they really stand out because the rest of the design is so great, and we're reaching that point. So I want to talk about what makes this so amazing to me, and I will try not to get too deep in the weeds, but if you get me started after talking about this, you'll probably have to like smack me to get me to shut up. So I'm almost not kidding. So people who provide liquidity to the automated market maker, so the automated market maker, in order to trade, it needs assets to trade with. And so people have to sort of loan it assets. They put the assets in the automated market maker's pools, and they get back liquidity tokens. These are tokens, issued assets that are tradable on the DEX that represent their proportional ownership. So these tokens can be traded on the DEX. You can hold them. You don't have to cash them in for your share of the pools if you want. You can just sort of move them around and use them as an asset. And for US holders, this should be very tax efficient. Your gains won't be realized until you sell or dispose of the liquidity token. So if you put a bunch of XRP and a bunch of Bitcoin in a liquidity pool for an AMM, you'll get back some liquidity tokens, which you can just hold. The AMM will do its thing, hopefully producing return for you, and then you can sell those liquidity tokens when you're done, and then that will be, if you're in the US, that's a taxable event, but your money can grow tax-free. Obviously not tax advice, consult experts, but I think we got it. Multi-token world, it's a tokenized world where maybe other types of assets are tokenized. And liquidity is sort of the secret sauce to making that work. I think personally my earliest vision that I think has held for 10 years now was this idea of sort of public pools of liquidity. In existing payment systems, you're stuck with that payment system's liquidity. One of the other cool secret sauces is this continuous auction mechanism, which auctions off the right to arbitrage against the automated market maker. So this is something that's completely unique, not available anywhere else. The automated market maker, arbitrageurs will trade against the automated market maker when its pricing is wrong. So the automated market maker doesn't know what the prices are, right? It doesn't have an oracle. It's completely automated and algorithmic. And so its prices can become wrong due to external price action, right? The price of Bitcoin goes up, the price of XRP goes down, the price of things change. And arbitrageurs will trade against it and they'll make a profit. We want arbitrageurs to work quicker. We don't want arbitrageurs to make the pool suffer such large losses. So what we did is we gave a designated arbitrager who pays a fee for this execution privileges that will allow them to arbitrage more rapidly than anybody else will. And if they're diligent, they should be able to capture a significant fraction of the arbitrage opportunity. Because the pool sells this privilege, it should reap as its own profit a significant fraction of what the arbitrager would make. So the pool charges for arbitrage rights, and it does it using its own liquidity tokens as the currency by which you buy these arbitrage slots, and it destroys them when they're paid to the pool. So arbitrageurs who want those arbitrage slots have to acquire liquidity tokens either by putting money into the pool or buying them from other people, and then they're destroyed. And if there are fewer liquidity tokens outstanding, the value of each one goes up because it's a claim against the assets of the pool. Now, another thing that happens is volatility. So external prices change, right? The price of XRP changes, the price of Bitcoin changes. That means the value of the assets the pool holds changes. And that drives up both arbitrager activity. There's only an opportunity to arbitrage if the price is out of whack. One source of the price being out of whack would be changes in the price. But also natural ledger activity, people making payments and offers. All of these things trade against the AMM instance, and the AMM makes a spread. But there's something else going on that's almost more exciting, which is volatility is harvested by the automated market maker. Normally, volatility just results in risk and a reduction in yield. But here, it's a gain in yield. The automated market maker actually implements a trading strategy that converts volatility into yield. And if you think about what an automated market maker does, when the price goes up, it sells, and when the price goes down, it buys. That strategy, if you imagine if you hold Apple stock and the price goes up and you sell, and then the price goes back down and you buy, you make a profit. If the price goes down and you buy and the price goes back up, you make a profit, and you sell, you make a profit. That's what an automated market maker does all day long. In addition, the automated market maker leverages the XRP ledger's inherent advantages. The XRP ledger has very, very fast transactions. The XRP ledger has very, very low transaction cost. These are things that will drive up the revenue and the efficiency of the automated market maker. So if the price of XRP goes up or down, and then it comes back in just a few seconds, if you were on a blockchain like Ethereum, there's no way that you could harvest that volatility because your transactions take several minutes to confirm. There's just no way that you can make that work. But because it is so fast, the trading algorithm can convert volatility into yield much, much more rapidly. Higher transaction fees mean that arbitrageurs wait to transact. If the transaction fee is $13 and you're only going to make $10, you don't submit the transaction, right? You have no choice but to wait. But because the transaction fees are so low on the XRP ledger and the transactions are so fast, that means arbitraging is going to be more efficient, and the pool is going to be able to capture more volatility for yield. XRPL's low transaction fees, high transaction fees make arbitraging so much more competitive and so much faster that it reduces the pool's arbitrage losses and increases the pool's volatility gain. Lastly, the XRP ledger doesn't have block producers. Block producers, if you know what, anybody know what MEV is? So these are block producers who are finding ways to essentially front run. It would be illegal anywhere else, right? Miners, stakers, block producers, whatever you call them, can front run AMM transactions. But you can't do that on the XRP ledger because there aren't miners, stakers, or block producers. The consensus process doesn't allow any party to be the dictator of the moment to run the block. This makes arbitrage slots more valuable and should increase the returns on the continuous auctions, resulting in more liquidity token destruction and more yield. One of the disadvantages of holding assets like XRP and Bitcoin is their volatility. All right, why do we have stablecoins? Because volatile assets are like hard to hold and use. I'm hopeful that this combination of features in the AMM specification will turn that disadvantage into a significant advantage. AMMs will harvest volatility for yield. Volatility will drive market makers, which the AMM makes a spread right at volume. And of course, volatility increases arbitrage profits because the AMM gets more out of balance more, and the AMM gets a cut of those profits through the auction mechanism. So this could really turn the volatility of a digital asset from a downside to an upside. Super excited about it. The auction mechanism. So this could really turn the volatility of a digital asset from a downside to an upside. Super excited about it. Those three features of the XRP ledger that it's had, forever, make automated market makers work much, much better. And then with the mechanism that we're working on that will allow the pool to recapture much of the profits that the arbitrage makes, almost as if the pool were arbitraging against itself, we're hopeful that that will incentivize very, very deep pools of liquidity on the XRP ledger that will make movement between tokens very efficient. So that could be, I think that could be a game changer. And liquidity is sort of the secret sauce to making that work. I think personally, my earliest vision that I think has held for 10 years now was this idea of sort of public pools of liquidity. And I think that could be a game changer.
It was very audacious for us in the early days. We're going to build the software that goes right into the bank's transaction processing system. But I think what we realize now is that that's a fantastic asset to have your software right in the transaction processing system where real money moves, That's a fantastic asset to have your software right in the transaction processing system where real money moves,
Yeah, that's great.
That's what separates Ripple from every other blockchain infrastructure, cryptocurrency exchange.
So in the next half of the year, we're going to be focusing on sidechains to allow people to build fully functional dApps. We're going to have an EVM-compatible sidechain. We'll allow assets to move. And this will provide a good list of advantages. One of the important ones is horizontal scalability. And with sidechains, you can create additional ledgers or additional chains that have their own transaction per second limits. And so you get that horizontal scalability, right? So sidechains will give us that capability. It will allow assets to move from chain to chain, so you can have premium assets. If you really like the features you want, you can have. The obvious one is having XRP on an EVM-compatible chain, but like a federated sidechain can be based on any technology. It can be based on the XRP ledger technology, or it can be different. I think it's most interesting where it uses the XRP ledger's consensus algorithms, but it can have completely different transaction semantics. One of the first applications of federated sidechains will probably be Ethereum virtual machine chains. That is a sidechain that implements the Ethereum virtual machine, but that can move tokens to and from the XRP ledger. I expect that federated sidechains will make available new applications that have not been previously possible for the XRP ledger, and a big one is going to be more powerful DeFi. We've put all of this effort into performance and scalability, reducing the cost to operate a node, helping to push decentralization further out. We want people to run their own nodes, and improving the network stability and reliability. XRPL Labs made the signer increase amendment to increase the number of signers from 8 to 32 and allow metadata to be attached to those entries. This is extremely helpful for like enterprises, but it's also really useful for DeFi applications, where you may have like a consortium of nodes that have to sign a transaction and use these M of N arrangements. And for DeFi applications, where you may have like a consortium of nodes that have to sign a transaction and use these M of N arrangements, and having the maximum N go up from 8 to 32 natively makes those things work a little better. For XRPL grants, we need you. Grants, we need you. XRP Ledger smart transactors, you can have that. Whatever combination of features you want, you can have. The obvious one is having XRP on an EVM compatible chain, but like that's like the one that most people would think of. But there are maybe people who want the reverse, right? If you want really great payments with ETH, or really great fast, cheap payments with Bitcoin, you want the XRP Ledger's mechanics, but maybe you want these other assets. And so this gives you that combination, which allows people to innovate at the blockchain level. Like the great thing about Ethereum is you can innovate at the smart contract level, but you're stuck with the layer 1 parameters that they have. You get what you get. And if you don't like those, tough. You want more storage space? Tough, right? But this will allow people to innovate at the blockchain level. And it will also allow features like hooks or other features to be tested with real assets, and so they can make a case for adoption on the XRP ledger. As I was saying before, we don't want to break the ledger. What better way to prove that something is safe than to run it on a live blockchain with live assets and show that it works? The sidechains will let people do that. The disasters in the industry with projects that scaled up to huge amounts of money before they had the technical wherewithal to be able to handle those amounts. I think it's responsible what Flare did, where they built Songbird, and Songbird is handling real money, but it's not sort of their live network. It's like an experimental intel. What Flare did, where they built Songbird, and Songbird is handling real money, but it's not sort of their live network. It's like an experimental and test network where you can sort of fail more gracefully. But if it succeeds, then Flare will launch with much more confidence. And this
Ripple plays actually quite an important role. It's a money transmission network, and it does quite a good job of it. And it has deep connections with global governments around the world and has worked really hard on it. So there is a reason the chain is valued as highly as it is, and it's not from speculation, because actually, it got taken off a whole bunch of exchanges because of the lawsuit. It's actually because when I use my netcast law model, the amount of value that gets transacted on the chain is very high. It's being used. Probability is that the value of the chain increases significantly, and as the world moves towards central bank digital currencies, I think the XRP network is going to be somewhere at the center of all of that. So
banks and financial institutions, and they're using it inside the same regulatory framework that they're currently using. But they're settling on a digital asset that's an open platform. And the idea is that RippleNet is in service of the digital asset. Like Ripple's revenue is not coming from banks. It's it's the digital asset. That's where the value is, and that's the liquidity. The pools that will be created will be accessible to anyone. Anyone can, can become part of them and can draw off them. I think I would be inspired by looking at what happened with the internet. Like the internet was built by government and military. It was originally adopted by institutions. Many of them were educational institutions, but many of them were big data companies. And what happened is they built the very platform that eventually reduced their control. What you're going to see is smaller banks cutting out larger banks as correspondents. You're going to see a democratization inside banking. And as long as we, and you guys need to hold us accountable for this. If you see us straying from this, please, I'm not asking for a free pass. We are going to keep that XRP ledger open. It's open source. We don't have any legal rights over it. The code that enforces all the rules is run by every single participant. We can't tell them what code to run.
As was publicized last year, there are ongoing plans for the Foundation's published UNL so that no one entity has more than one validator on the UNL. This is going to continue to add diversity as well as resilience to the network.
The increasing use of the XRP ledger we have seen in the past year has also led to revisiting and optimizing how we load balance and how the transaction routing is done on XRPL+.com. In an average week, we now are handling more than 80 million connections from 10 million unique clients with more than 10 terabytes of data transferred. On average, there are 6,500 simultaneous connections, and it has had its peak in November of 2021 with a simultaneous 28,000 connections. So to handle the increased use, smart routing has been introduced behind the scenes. For example, so that full history nodes only handle the requests they can handle, and pathfinding is handled by dedicated pathfinding nodes. And requests related to current activity is handled by the non-full history nodes. In fact, when you connect to XRPL cluster, on average, a client is using 1.8 nodes behind the scenes. Clients are smoothly and fully automatically handed over between the nodes. Behind the scenes, the server park increased in the last year from 18 to 38 nodes, scaled across all of the edges. And the edges are Frankfurt, San Francisco, New York, London, Singapore, Bangalore, and Toronto. So several repositories was also donated to the Foundation's GitHub organization that now hosts most of the core XRP ledger projects, including the developer portal and several client libraries. The past year included noticeable community source code contributions as well, such as hooks with builders and libraries by XRPL Labs and Clio by Ripple. The XRP ledger standards repository has a lot of activity in the last year, with 8 new standard drafts submitted for discussion. For example, token-enabled escrows and payment channels, and a native automated market-made feature we just heard David talk about. All these standard contributions are public, and we invite everyone to participate both in discussing the existing proposals and by proposing new standards. And last but not least, since June, the XRP ledger reference implementation, RippleD, is under the Foundation as well.
Awareness of the XRP ledger as a layer 1 option has been increasing. Those speeds, fees, scalability, low energy uses, and I think the track record, 10 years running, and the built-in DEX, tokenization, sourcing efficient liquidity. The XRP ledger rises to the fore as a core opportunity to differentiate against other chains with these features.